The graph to the right compares teaching salaries of women and men at private colleges and universities. What impression does the graph create? Does the graph depict the data fairly? And if not, then construct a graph that depicts the data fairly. Well, if we take a look here, right, there's our graph for women and there's our graph for men. Now, if you notice, you can see here that it starts at 50,000 and then it goes to 60,000, 70,000, 80,000. So it doesn't start at a value of 0. So what it then shows, okay, is that it's showing that the impression that that men have salaries that are more than twice the salaries of women. So if you notice here, here is the bar for women, here's the bar for men. So therefore, we're going to say that the graph creates the impression that men have salaries that are more than twice the salaries of women. So let's take a look at this here. Again, some graphs are bad in a sense that they contain errors, and some are bad because they are technically correct, but misleading. It is important to develop the ability to recognize the bar graphs and to identify exactly how they are misleading. So, to determine the impression the graph creates, we compared the heights of the bars in the graph, and notice that the bar representing men's salaries is about twice as high as the bar representing women's salaries. This creates the impression that men have salaries that are more than twice the salaries of women. So some graphs are misleading because one or both of the axes begin at some value other than 0. So that differences are exaggerated. So let's go ahead and check our answer, and that works. So now the next question, when we hit continue, says, does the graph depict the data fairly? Well, again, it says, we say that it's not fair, and the reason why is because the vertical scale in the graph starts at 50,000. Because the vertical scale does not start at 0, the graph is misleading. So we would say, does the graph depict the data fairly? Well, it says no, because the vertical scale does not start at 0. Okay, and then the last part, it says, if the graph does not depict the data fairly, then which graph below does? Okay, well, if you take a look at the first one for part A, you can see that this does not start at 0, so we can cross that one off. If we take a look at B and then we take a look at C, then we need to compare this graph with those two graphs. Well, you can see that the salary for women is between 50,000 and 60,000, and we can see that the graph for men is 70,000. So over here, it looks like this value is close to 6,000, which is there, and we can see that this graph is in between 60,000 and 80,000, so it could be B. If we take a look at C, we can see that the salary for women is above 60,000, which is not the case over here. And you can see that the value for men is now below the 70,000. So it looks like the answer is going to be